Friday, 10 games on in the NBA. Let's check what happened, because there were some things that happened. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I have never put $50,000 into a shoebox and handed it to a stranger. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your jobs for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We are available on all platforms. Let's double bang it out. Although you can't, because the audio's a bit delayed here. But if you are new on the video side, welcome. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, ring your notification bell, and you can leave your comments down below as we drop in a little bit of a surprise Friday recap show. Because there were 10 games on, we had the All-Star break, and I think it's important to cover these games today. I don't know that we're going to roll out the full show, because I do have a dinner to go to tonight afterwards, so we'll see how we go. But that's okay, because we've got 10 games that we're going to talk about right now in the NBA. Let's have a look at what we do know, or what news happened early on today. We heard the report of Patrick Williams. He has undergone surgery in his foot. We sort of alluded to this, or I think I've even flat out said it, that I thought that this was heading to a season-ending injury to Pat Williams. He's having surgery on this foot issue. We don't really know the specifics of it, but he's done for the year. Obviously, Torrey Craig's out for those 2 to 4 weeks. Levine is out. Ball is out. The Bulls are just banged up. This doesn't change gigantic amounts of things, because we have seen this rotation already. We already know what they do. What it does do is it gives more security long-term. So it gives more security long-term to Ayo Dosunmu. It means that some of those games, maybe later on in the schedule against double big lineups, that Drummond gets the extra boost. But the clear one there is just make sure that Dosunmu and Alex Caruso are rostered. Drummond is not going to get big minutes every game. We saw that last game. It's just not going to happen. There'll be some nights that it happens. Dosunmu is going to get a lot. And then you might see this team realize that they're not... they probably are going to make the plans. So that's frustrating. So you won't get opportunities for Julian Phillips, or recently converted two-way 6-minute legend Honorable Batim, who they've had on a two-way contract all year and never played him. Literally has played 6 minutes total. And they went, that's probably a good idea to now reward you with a multi-year NBA contract. He must have been really impressive. Must have been really impressive. Or it was a favor because they're an idiot organization. Alexei Pokusevski's been waived by the Thunder. Man, I thought he could had a chance in what I thought was a weak draft to turn into an interesting player. And I put him pretty high in that draft because I was hunting upside, because I didn't love a lot of those players in that draft, and it turned out terribly. I don't know that he catches on anywhere. Just need to watch, though. Like, does he end up on a team that is tanking? Like, imagine he ends up in, like, Portland, and they go, all right, we'll start you for the final 10 games. Memphis. Washington, like, who knows? Just watch. I don't know that he'll end up in any of those spots. I don't think that he will. He might not end up anywhere. Just keep an eye on it. Let's have a look at some waiver wire trends over the last 24 hours, the most added and the most dropped players across fantasy basketball leagues. Number 1 is DeAndre Hunter, up 6% there for the Hawks. Look, fine. I know he's been playing well. I don't really think it's going to be a long-term thing, but that's okay. Trey Murphy up 5%. He was pretty good yesterday with defensive stats. Ingram being out helps. Otherwise, I think he's fringy. Same with Jaden McDaniels. Jaden McDaniels actually is 100% not a 12-team must-roster player, but with their schedule, his game on Saturday, totally reasonable. Rui Hachimura, when will we realize that he is not it? I don't get it. Like, he wasn't even good yesterday. Yet people added him more. Come on. Grant Williams up 4%, totally fine. Should be rostered. Doesn't mean that it's going to last, but should be. And then Cam Whitmore up 4%. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about the Rockets later on. In terms of the most dropped players, Dennis Schroeder is down 11%. Yes, totally cool. If they decide to change things up and Simmons gets benched or whatever, then you can go and re-add Schroeder. But he's such a low upside player that I'm not holding a low upside bench point guard. I'm not doing that. Al Horford down 8%. We talked about this at length. Doesn't do enough when he's on the bench. If you're in a situation, weekly lineups, you're in a situation, very tight games cap, you're in a roto league, yeah, you can have him. But you don't want to otherwise. Kelly Olynyk down 7%. I think that was, I would have held him. I think that, he had the one game where he was injured with his back for Toronto. The first 2 games were really good. Yesterday's game was not that good, but I would have held him, and I think that's too preemptive to have dropped him there. Harrison Barnes down 7%. In fact, the pencil Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. Oh, the button didn't work. That's what she said. Yeah, down 7%, drop him. Simone Fontecchio down 7%. Cool. Like, they do play tomorrow, so dropping him is okay, but holding him for the low volume game makes a little bit of sense, but overall, no, he's not a must roster player. And Derek Lively down 6%. While we like what Lively does and the fact that he's starting, unless he gets 28 minutes a night, it is hard for me to see him as a must roster player. Now, maybe he does get 28 minutes a night, but they are playing Washington, Kleber, Gafford, and Lively all at center. Makes it almost impossible for me to see Lively as a guy that plays enough to be considered an absolute must roster guy. I don't think that's going to be the case, which is okay. It's been great for him, but it doesn't mean that it's always going to be great. Let's get into games. First one up, the Cavs, the Sixers. We did have a change in the starting lineup for the Philadelphia 76ers. Donovan Mitchell still out for Cleveland in this one. Kelly Oubre jumped back into the starting lineup. Nico Batum was removed. They said that he was available to play, but he didn't on the back-to-back until the final 30 seconds of the game, where they needed someone to throw an inbound pass. So he came in for that one. So that was a rest that wasn't a rest, and it was one of those hey, in an actual but the team say we'll only use him in an emergency. I guess Nick Nurse, self-branded hat legend, thought that it was an emergency to crack Batum out there. The Sixers win at 104-97. Darius Garland, 20-5, 9 assists, 2 steals. Maybe we'll stop the whinging now. Maybe. Struder, Max Strus, the winner soldier, 35 minutes, 14-1-6, 2 steals and 1 block. 2 good games in a row. Is it a coincidence that 2 good games without Donovan Mitchell? Who's to say? That's good enough to roster him, but in the end, he is very fringy. I don't think it's a must. I don't think you have to get him, and it definitely doesn't guarantee that it lasts. Stinker from Mobley, only 27 minutes for Mobley. He did have some foul trouble. 8 points, 10 rebounds, no assists. Yuck. Bad shooting from the field and dreadful from the line. Trash stuff. Really bad. While Jarrett Allen had 24-9 and Dracaris LeVert, 6-5-4, 2 steals. LeVert shot 9%. Get that garbage out of here. Thanks. Just jack him totally. Okoro, 2 blocks with 11 points and 4 assists is fine. He's only deeper stream with Mitchell out. For the Sixers, like I said. I said 30 seconds. I was lying. Batum played 3 seconds in this game. Came in for an inbound pass, and that is it. But what we did get is the return of D'Anthony Melton from that back issue. He came off the bench. He played 16 minutes. He had 7 points in that game. And this was also no Kyle Lowry. He was resting due to the back-to-back and reconditioning. I know it's a controversial statement, and you know that I do like D'Anthony Melton, but I don't think that there are actually enough minutes here for D'Anthony Melton to be a must-roster player. He is coming off a stress reaction / fracture issue in his back. There is Buddy Hield, there's Kyle Lowry, there's Nick Batum, and there's Kelly Oubre. And yeah, it's always expected that Melton is going to ease back into more minutes here. But even if he does ease back into more, he's not guaranteed 30 minutes. I don't really see that being the thing. And do you have to hold on to him at this short window time frame of the season to wait to see whether Melton gets back to that? I don't think you do. I could end up being, in a points league, I don't think it's a discussion. Not a rosterable 12-team league guy. In a category league, I know some of you will froth him. You'll love some of the defensive stats. I just don't think there are enough minutes here. Buddy Hield, after that red-hot start in Philadelphia, it is starting to taper off. Expectedly, remember, also 3 seconds for Batum, no Lowry in this one. Hield played 32 minutes. He had 13, 5, and 1 with 3 threes. 9 shots. This is, again, it's a very key lesson in understanding how to look through the trade deadline, the different phases of the deadline. When you see Hield going off and you go, yeah, that's cool because Harris was out, Maxey was out, Melton was out, Batum was out, Lowry hadn't arrived. Of course he's going to do more. And now he's not. And I don't guarantee that Hield will remain a 12-team league player. The big fella, Paul Reed. 8 and 12, 3 blocks, 67%. This is why we hold. I know that some of you go, well, he's trash. He only scored 8 points. If you want points, you made the wrong call to begin with to add him. This is a very good category league player who is not awesome. I don't think that he's... Just because I will say that I think Paul Reed should be added. I don't love Paul Reed. I don't think Paul Reed is a game-changing NBA player. I don't think Paul Reed is a game-changing fantasy player. I think he's just good enough to be on someone's roster in every single league. And there will be bad games and there'll be good games. And this is a good one. Maxey had 24, 7 and 5 with 2 steals. Didn't shoot well, while the thick Hogsman bounced back with 15, 9 and 4 and 2 steals. Still not playing super well. Harris has really been quite disappointing, I think, most of this season as an overall thing, even though like he's 52nd ranked player, which is good, but I just think overall a bit disappointing. Oubre started. He had 10 points in 28 minutes. He is not a 12-team league player.
Get that garbage out of here.
I see no justification for Kelly Oubre to be a 12-team league guy. Just no reason for it. Stream him in, sure, that's it, but no other justification. Or Campaign had 16 points in 20 minutes, but Lowry out is a big part of that. Today's episode is brought to you by Stitch Fix. You know that instant confidence boost that you get when you look good? You put something on, you look in the mirror and go, hey, look at this big fella. He's looking pretty good, isn't he? Well, that is what you get with Stitch Fix. Stitch Fix gets you a stylist who understands your style, your size, your budget, and they do the shopping for you. It is the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. You tell them your size, go bang, I am this size. You say, what is your style? I am casual, work from home, bum. That's my size. Budget preferences. And then you order the box when and how you want it. There's no subscription plan. You just get 5 pieces sent to you. Outfit recommendations, pro styling advice. It is all there. The stylist sends the pieces for you that are tailored to your fit, to your style, to your preference, all of that sort of stuff. And they just get what you want. Simple stuff. And if you don't like it, by the way, you send it back. Shipping is free. Return is free. Exchanges are free. Always. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That is stitchfix.com/lockedon. stitchfix.com/lockedon. All right, second game of the day is my Toronto Raptors taking on the Atlanta Hawks. The couple of lineup changes here. RJ Barrett was out with knee management. I think that knee might be a problem all season. Just watch that. Jordan Nwora started in his place, and Clint Capella returned, pushing Bruno Fernando to the bench. Remember, Fernando started the final game before the All-Star break with Onyeka Okongwu out. The Raptors, 2 in a row, 123-121 over the Atlanta Hawks. So let's talk about Jordan Nwora, who did replace Barrett there. He went scoreless in 14 minutes. He took his shots, and he will do that, but obviously that's a disappointing line. 0-4-2 on 0-5 shooting. Gaz Trent got the big minutes again. He did not turn that into anything good, and this is why I am not a Gary Trent guy. 13-4-4 on 29% shooting in 34 minutes. But the big fella, the pulsating legend, Grade A Dick, had 18 points in 22 minutes. He had 2 threes. He shot 62%. Adding Grade A Dick to your roster does not need to be done. If you're in a situation where you are comfortably cruising, you are sitting in the first seed, your playoffs don't actually start for 3 weeks, sure, right? I do see this coming for Dick. I think it will. But it might not, and it might take a while to get there. But this was encouraging. Brucey Brown played 32 minutes, taking on some of the Barrett minutes, 12, 3 and 3. We don't roster him. And like I said earlier, Kelly Olynyk got 22 minutes. He had 10, 5 and 6 with a block. Now, that is really realistically just only playing the minutes that Pirtle's not playing, so no crossover minutes, which is frustrating. And if that sticks, that probably means in the end we will drop Olynyk. But we don't have to. Like, those numbers are plenty good enough to roster. 10, 5 and 6 with a block is totally reasonable to hold. And I would. Scotty Barnes had 20 and 5 with 10 assists, while Abaji had a good game. I guess there's time for anything. 14 points with 4 threes in 17 minutes. You do not care. Well, Quickly's value is back up, which is great. 24, 7 and 5 with 6 dribbles. He took 20 shots with Barrett not there. And Pirtle had 12, 13 and 6 with 2 blocks in 26. Pirtle's minutes, this is what was happening to Pirtle before Achua got traded, before the Anunoby deal. And then he started playing like 36 a night. And now Darko's back to playing him limited minutes, which keeps him as a 12-team league guy, but obviously more towards the back end than where he was earlier on in the season. For the Hawks, DeJounte Murray, pretty strong. 24, 10 and 7, good shooting numbers. DeAndre Hunter, again, another good game. That's 3 in a row. 22 and 5 in 26 minutes. The 26 minutes is not ideal. He shot well. To me, it's a perfect sell high, but you'll never be able to pull that off. But if you can, go for it. I know what Hunter is, right? 2 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks. Cool. He got by on a lot of shots, and hitting them at 50%, and he's got to the line a lot lately. I just don't see that as being a realistic, every game thing for Hunter. But while he's rolling, go for it. Bay had 18 and 9, which is fine. Again, you can just keep these guys, but I don't look at them as these must sort of players. Trae Young was just absolutely putrid. 11 points, 31%, 7 assists. That's a terrible game from Young. If your trade deadline's still there, maybe it's a buy low for him. Well, Capella only played 19 minutes. He was on a restriction, 5 and 7. And Fernando just 11 minutes. So they just went small with a lot of Jalen Johnson at center. Now, Johnson didn't play super well. 12 and 12 with 3 blocks, but the percentages were pretty bad. In fact, he missed all 3 of his free throws. But those extra minutes, or the fact that they went small, meant that we got more Hunter, more Bay. 29 minutes of Bogdanovic there as well. Getting those smaller guys into that rotation to enable those that production to be had. All right, let's go to the next game, a weird one. The Clippers and the Grizzlies. You'd think the Clippers would have no problem with this one, but apparently they did. The Grizzlies, of course, a million lineup changes. Jaren Jackson returned. Trey Jemison went from starting to completely out of the rotation. Luke Kennard returned and he started. Jordan Goodwin, who started the last game, well, it was not particularly strong for Jordan Goodwin either, as he moved his way back out of the rotation too. And this is going to be the problem with this Grizzlies team all season, or for the rest of this season anyway. There is going to be weird stuff that goes on. The Clippers win it, 101-95. Kawhi had 24, 8, and 4 with 3 steals and a block. Look, that's not super impressive for this team in general, but after getting smacked by the Thunder yesterday on a back-to-back, getting the win is important. It's also a huge game from Terrence Mann, 23 and 12 with 4 threes. He took 17 shots. I think we just mark this as an outlier, but we at least pay a little bit of attention to it. Zubats, 27 minutes, 10 and 10. Again, this is, I think, who he is. Upside really low. If I'm in an 8 or 10 teamer, not sure he's a must-roster player. In 12s, he probably is. But if we get into a situation in the playoffs where the schedule doesn't make sense for him, the upside's so low that I don't think we do need to do much with it. He did foul out here, though. That's worth mentioning. Westbrook played a little bit more. 23 minutes here, 13, 2 and 0. But you know what to do.
Get that garbage out of here!
Paul George, bit of a slump here. Nice buy low opportunity if you can. 14, 5 and 3. And it was just a bad James Harden game. In fact, he hit his first shot of the game with about, a minute left? In the last, right at the end of the game anyway. He had 9, 8 and 8 though, because he got to the line and went 6 of 7, but 13% shooting. I guess when you're having a stinking night, to end up with 9, 8 and 8 with a block is almost as much as you could ask for when it's just a terrible night all around. So overall, the game is salvageable considering how bad it was. For the Grizzlies, again, what do we do here? No Bane, no Smart, no Morant, obviously. Goodwin and Gilead, both DNPs, preserving some two-way days there for Gilead. Pippen out, Clark out. Jemison, again, preserving a two-way day, but they're going to just sit random guys all the way through. Kennard had 7, 2 and 2 in 26 minutes. Not rosterable. In 12s, of course. Santi Aldama, 7 and 6 in 24 minutes. Not rosterable. In fact, let's do it.
Get that garbage out of here!
GG Jackson, 24 minutes, 11, 2 and 1. He is not a very good category league player at this point. In points leagues, he's a definite hold. In categories, he's very borderline. And we talked about how some of his efficiency stuff was pretty weird and might not hold. Well, this is the worry. I do think there are going to be games where he definitely spikes, and there are games when he definitely falls off. But even though the toast of the town is GG, and I like GG. I talked about GG probably before anyone in a fantasy aspect, right? But there are significant downsides to what he does. 131st over the last 5 games in 27 minutes a night, which is fine, but he's not a league winner. Zaire Williams. You know what? I ignored Zaire Williams after that first game, and I ignored him talking waiver wire. And someone said, hey, why aren't you more in on Zaire? Like, I think he's bad. Like, I think he's been bad most of his career. But 30 minutes, 10 and 4 with 2 steals. That's at least, you go, okay. Are they going to give him an opportunity to see what he can do and go with the Williams pairing? Maybe. I wouldn't rush to add Zaire at all, but that makes me a little bit more interested. He started over Lil John Conchar, who hurt his thumb at the end. 7, 4 and 3 with 2 steals and a block, and Vince Williams had 9, 6 and 8. But this team is going to be a disaster. Lamar Stevens played 16 minutes. He'll play 27 in another one. He had 8 and 8 with a steal and a block. He'll be streamable at times. Conchar will be. Zaire will be. Aldama might be. Kennard might be. Laravia might be. Rose might be. Goodwin might be. Who knows? It's really hard to have any sort of faith in these guys. Now, Derrick Rose probably won't play the next game, and that means Goodwin might start again. Like, who knows? It is going to be like this ad infinitum. It'll just continue on this path, and we will never be able to get a locked-in valuation on a player. I'm pretty sure that's how it will go. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Our partners over at eBay Motors have teamed up with me to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. So as you're out there scouring the waiver wire or scouting the waiver wire, you might be sitting in your car that needs parts, but you're going to help get those players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. With the injury to Patrick Williams, Ayo Dosunmu's rest of season value improves. His short-term value doesn't change because Pat Williams has been out, but the specter of a Williams return is done now. So Dosunmu's floor value rises up significantly, and he has improved significantly over the last 6 weeks or so of this season. So he's a guy that just needs to be rostered in all leagues, Ayo Dosunmu. Is he that perfect fit? Well, for some of you, yeah, he might be the perfect fit that helps boost your team, pushes up their chances of winning a fantasy championship, and getting that player to bring onto your team to be that perfect fit. eBay knows that is what it's all about. And it is the same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure that your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever it is that your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, it is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber and not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to US customers, eligible items only, and exclusions apply. Okay, so 3 games done. We've got 7 more to crack into, and we had the next one is the Suns and the Rockets, and we had a lineup change in this one as well. Phoenix travels into Houston, both teams on the back-to-back. Yusuf Nurkic hurt his ankle in yesterday's game, so he was out. Drew Eubanks moved into the starting lineup to be the starting center for the Phoenix Suns, but he wasn't the big story, was he? You know who the big story was. We'll talk about the big story now. Well, the big story is they lost 114-110. The Rockets get the win, but we'll start with Bol because he played 27 minutes, 25 and 14, a steal and a block with 2 threes. Unquestionably, an amazingly good game. He was a DNP yesterday. So, am I adding Bol? Nah, I'm not. I don't think that Nurkic's thing is serious. Beal is going to return. This was a game where he sort of blew up out of nowhere. He was awesome in this game. I don't think that it is a priority to add Bol. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you and tell you that you're wrong for doing it. It would depend on who you drop. This is great. He played 0 minutes yesterday. So don't get too caught up in it. Be really cautious about who you drop. But this is, again, a situation because Nurkic is out. It helps that Beal is out as well. That he was out. Look, and we also got only 17 minutes out of Royce O'Neal, who was bad in this one. Like, just really bad. So don't get overextend yourself in adding him. Grayson Allen had 15, 6, and 6 with 2 steals and 2 blocks. Just remains a must-roster player in category leagues. Durant, 28, 11, and 8, 2 blocks. And Devin Booker had 25 and 5, but shot horribly. 29% for Booker is really, really rough. Eubanks, 9 and 5 with 2 blocks. That is at least streamable if Nurkic remains out. But again, you might prefer Bol, and I get it. He's more exciting. Thad Young made his Suns debut. He had 8 rebounds there. We don't need to worry about that. Well, O'Neal, 1 point, 1 steal, 0 of 5 shooting. I do not believe that Royce O'Neal is a 12-team league player. There will be other fantasy analysts who think differently of Royce O'Neal's game, and that is totally their prerogative. I just don't value what he does. I don't think he's particularly strong at what he does, and I don't think he's going to have big minutes every single game. Yes, this is an outlier in terms of low minutes. I just don't think he's a guy you prioritize at all. Eric Gordon, yuck. 5 points, 25%. He's streamable while Beal is out, and that's about it. For the Rockets, though, we had 2 guys who were stinking yesterday, Jalen Green and Jabari Smith. One of them bounced back, and he is not Jollibee Jalen. It was Jabari. He had 22 and 16, 2 steals and a block. Huge W. Big bounce back from Fed VanVleet. Just played a casual 37 minutes on a back-to-back, coming off a groin injury, 23, 5 and 5 with 6 threes and 2 steals. But what about the Adobo legend, Jollibee Jalen? What did he do? Well, he played 21 minutes and had 14 points. Yeah, we are... well, first of all, we're jacking him.
Get that garbage out of here.
He's gone, but that is... I think we're done. I think... I don't know if the Rockets are 100% done with him, but it is pretty clear that he is not their best prospect or remotely close to it, because their best prospect is Amen Thompson, who had 15 and 10 with a steal and 2 blocks. Yesterday, I was like, I'm not sure what I told you to do when Van Vliet was coming back. I might have told you to drop him, and I apologize if I did, but people jumped in and said, no, Josh, you actually said to hold for 1 game. So you know what? W for me, I guess. Yeah, hold him. Must roster him. In the preseason, all the way back, even in Summer League, I said about Amen Thompson, I was talking to Rockets people, I go, what are they going to do? He's the third overall pick. How are they going to play him? And they go, well, he'll just come off the bench in 20 minutes a night. And the things that I said to the Rockets people then, that I spoke to Jackson Gatlin of Locked On Rockets. I said, I'm telling you, there's going to be a point come here where he is too good for this, and they're going to have to make a hard decision. They can play him 20 minutes, but he's going to be too good that they cannot continue to do that. And then he got injured at the start of the season. He had some troubles fitting in. But we're here now where he is too good to play this bench role. He's just too good for all of these other players. Not all of them, but he's too good to be in that role. Now, I also struggled to see Ime Udoka making that move early on, and I didn't find that clear pathway for minutes with Amen, and that I was probably... My overall view of Amen Thompson as a prospect was right. My valuation of Amen this season is probably going to end up looking wrong from a couple of months ago, right? He had 15 and 10, 2 blocks. He's just a must-roster player. He's going to be, I believe, in the future, a perennial top 25 fantasy guy. I think he's a complete stud. And they can't go away from him here. I don't think. You can reduce Green, you can reduce Brooks, you can do whatever you want. You can't go away from him. Şengün, disappointing with the percentages, but 17, 12, and 4 is okay counting-wise. And then we get Whitmore with 15 points. I don't think Cam Whitmore's a 12-team league player unless they pump 25 into him, which I don't think they will. While Brooks had 2 points on 17%. Dylan Brooks, rostered in 61% of 12-team leagues. What are you guys doing?
Get that garbage out of here!
Yeah, we jack him. By the way, I also think Tari Eason's done for the season. I don't know that for sure, but Tari Eason's rostered in 80% of 12-team leagues. Bloody, what is happening? Now, I know, we've got IL. How good is your team where everyone, like there's no one else hurt and you're just holding Eason? Why? What are you doing? I don't think that needs to be something that happens. I don't think it is, but you know what do I know? Sometimes something, sometimes not always. But you know, we always get into confusing scenarios as analysts, as fantasy managers, and I'm just waffling here because I do want to tell you that the next game is an absolute destruction. The Wizards and the Thunder. The Thunder were the ones who did the destroying. The Denny Avdija was out with a heel issue for the Wizards, and they replaced him not back with Jordan Poole at all. No, not with Corey Kispert, but with NPC legend Landry Shamet. Honestly, this guy is just not good at all. Why is he getting minutes? I don't know. He didn't get many of them, but he did start in a game they lost by 43. 149 OKC, 106 Washington. Bagley, only 21 minutes. That's not ideal. 15 and 14 with 2 steals and a block is great, and you roster him. Like, he just should be rostered at this point. Kispert played 25 minutes. He had 20 points with 3 threes and 2 steals. It's okay. It's more 14 teams for me. But what about Jordan Poole? Why are you doing this now, mate? 23 minutes, 21 points, 3 assists. Shot poorly. But one of the big criticisms, or one of the weird things that I screwed up on Poole was like, I thought he would just get gigantic usage, and he just never took shots. And now he comes off the bench and he's doing the things. 39.9 usage here. Now, was he good? Nah, he wasn't. Minus 21, he was bad. The whole team was bad. The last 2 games off the bench have made you go, maybe I do want to hold him. He's more like in moving into the Norman Powell, Tim Hardaway, Leaky Beasley zone, though, at the moment. So, like, do with that what you will. Probably don't want to hold him. Bilal Coulibaly, much better game. 11, 5, and 2, 2 steals and 2 threes. Love it for 14 teams. 12s, I'm not certain. Maybe that'll appear later on. While Tyus Jones, yuck. 5, 1, and 6. Kuzma, 14 points, missed both of his free throws. And Landry Shamet, starting legend. Took 2 shots, missed them. Played 19 minutes. He's terrible. We're also getting Johnny Davis minutes. Now, they're bad, but he played 22 of them here. 2.7 rebounds. I talked about him on one of the league winner show. I wasn't saying he was a league winner, but just a guy that they might just push everyone else out and see what he can do. Well, they're starting to give him minutes. It's not good, but he is starting to get those minutes, and yeah, we might see an occasional good game from Davis. For the Thunder, Shai had 30 and 7 with 9 assists, 111, an amazing game. Chet played only 23 minutes, but who cares? 25 and 10 with 2 blocks. And Josh Giddey, only 22 minutes, but that's a really good game. 14, 7, and 3, 1 steal, 2 blocks. I still don't think that means you need to roster Giddey. The Bronco, only 20 minutes for Jalen Williams, 11 points, 71%. 5 assists. Just low-minute game. He had some foul trouble, blowout. Don't worry about it. Well, Lou Dort was, all right. Streamable. 9 points, 3 threes. But this game was over so early. We got 8 minutes of Bismack Biyombo. We only got 15 minutes of Gordon Hayward. I'm surprised he played on the back-to-back, but I don't think you need to roster Gordon.
Get that garbage out of here.
He had, 8 and 6 in his 15 minutes. They gave 6 minutes to Adam Flagler. Keontae Johnson played 6 minutes. It was a destruction. And that sort of skews a lot of the stuff when we talk about the valuation of players and the minutes and all that, where all that stuff ends up going because, they just killed him very, very simply. Let's go on to the next game. It was a fiery one. The Miami Heat and the New Orleans Pelicans. We saw Jimmy Butler return from his personal absence, and they replaced Duncan Robinson with Jimmy Butler in the starting lineup. I didn't think that would be the case, but that's what they did. So Butler started over Duncan Robinson. But I say it was a fiery one because there was a punch-on towards the end of this game where Kevin Love sort of pushed Zion down. Najee Marshall came in, grabbed Butler on the neck, and a bunch of ejections, and there are going to be suspensions. Thomas Bryant, 100% is getting suspended. Alvarado is going to get suspended. Jimmy Butler is going to get suspended. Najee Marshall might get suspended. Some other guys jumped off the Heat bench as well. I think Jovic maybe as well. There are going to be suspensions in this game or from this game. I just don't know exactly what they are, but I'm pretty confident that Alvarado is going to go, Butler's going to go, Marshall's going to go, Bryant's going to go. They all got ejected. I think all those ejected players today definitely gone, and there might be a couple of others as well. The Heat, though, win it, 106-93. Butler played only 27 minutes. He had 23, 9, and 6 with 3 steals and a block. Wow. Now, he was bad from the line, but that's just a huge game before that ejection. While Adebayo had 24 and 7. And Robinson, yes, he went to the bench, but then his minutes pushed back up because Butler was out. 17 points, 5 threes, and 2 blocks. I think we hold Robinson because Tyler Hero went to the locker room late with a knee problem. Hero continues to really struggle here. There's no Rozier, there's no Richardson. So, Robinson just needs to be on a roster at this point. We thought there might be an opportunity for DeLon Wright, and he played 0 minutes. Now, is that because they were just sort of acclimatizing him here onto the team, and that's possible? But if Hero is out, there is no other option. He has to play. I'm not saying that he's a must roster. Look, it's also, he just might be bad now. He might be done. DeLon, that's possible. But we need to watch that. Jaquez was mid once again. Actually, no, he wasn't. That's a lie. He was bad. 8 points, 25%, 27 minutes. There's no 12-team justification for Jaime Jaquez at all.
Get that garbage out of here.
Nor is there for Jovic, who had 3 points in 21 minutes, and Highsmith had 5. So Caleb Martin, again, 8 and 5, not a 12-team league player either. Robinson's the guy. Watch if Hero is out. Maybe they go to DeLon Wright, but honestly, what they're doing at the moment with rotations is a little bit confusing. And you're going to have some suspensions that maybe open things up for a one-game Jaime Jaquez cameo, but I don't think it's a long-term thing for the Pelicans. No Dyson Daniels, no Brandon Ingram again. Herb Jones, just tons of minutes. No Ingram, no Daniels means he's playing a lot. He is on a all-time hot streak here. 19 and 5 with a steal, 80% shooting. Cannot miss at the moment. If you could sell high, you do it now. Nance, 18 minutes, 18 and 9, while Valanciunas played 25 minutes up because no Ingram, 12 and 10. And Zion, 23, 9 and 7. Pretty strong game. We got some more minutes there for Jordy Hawkins. He had 14, 3 and 2. He took 17 shots and was bad with them. He's actually for as much as people have hyped Jordan Hawkins up at times this season, he's the 293rd ranked player for fantasy and has been out of the rotation. And Trey Murphy, who was better yesterday, had 5 points on 17% with a steal and a block, which he's gotten. I think that Murphy is fine for now while Ingram is out. And if guys are suspended like Alvarado, and now McCollum's actually injured too, then maybe you hold him, but it doesn't look like a must-roster scenario. CJ, 2 points, 15 minutes. So he was in the midst of baking an absolute turd anyway, but now he's hurt. 2 and 2 in 15 minutes on 14%. He was obviously awesome to start the year. He'd been struggling over the last 2 weeks. In fact, over his last 5 games, 184th ranked player. And now he's probably going to miss some time. The problem is if Alvarado's out and CJ's out and Daniels is out, who's their point guard? They don't have one. That's the answer. You could make an argument that Jordan Hawkins is their point guard, not a point guard. Maybe Zion literally has to be their starting point guard. Or Ingram. It's one of those two players. It has to be. But that would mean more minutes for Hawkins, and then maybe you could stream him in for points and threes. No word yet on length of suspensions for these guys or severity of injury for CJ. I don't think there's going to be I must grab Hawkins. I would have said you probably do want to grab Alvarado, but he is going to be suspended, I'm pretty sure, due to that incident with Jimmy Butler and the fracas that ensued. All right, let's take a look at the next game, the Charlotte Hornets and the Golden State Warriors. Don't be too confused. That is not the third quarter score. That is the final score. 97. Golden State wins 84. Ridiculously low scoring game. Both of these teams just, didn't play very well. They didn't shoot very well. The Hornets shot 36% overall from the field. That's terrible. Obviously, still no LaMelo Ball, no Mark Williams. Absolutely no idea. If those guys, Mark Williams, just forget it, done. LaMelo, I just got no idea. I have no idea whatsoever. That'll bring us into his replacement, Tre Mann, who played 32 minutes, which is encouraging. He had 10, 4, and 2 with 2 threes, which is not great, and 33%. I thought he would be more voluminous in terms of his shooting. That hasn't happened. I think some people do get confused at times by the term must roster as well. Tre Mann is a must roster player. That doesn't mean he's a top 10 player, a top 20 player, a top 30 player, 40, 50, none of that. It just means that you need to have him on a roster. He might be the 80th best player, 90th best player, with top 40 upside for a period of time. But you just don't want him sitting on the waiver wire. And LaMelo Ball might come back next week and Mann plays 19 minutes. And then you go, okay, I'll drop him. And that's okay as well. So Mann just needs to be rostered. Grant Williams got ejected late. He had 10 and 3. Look, obviously his worst game in Charlotte. I would still hold him, but that could very easily turn into a drop later on as well. They're playing Miles Bridges a ton of minutes, 41 minutes here for Bridges, 19, 11, 3 threes, 2 steals and a block. It's giving a little bit of the, hey, we don't actually care if you get burnt out or you get injured because you're not going to be here next year anyway. Maybe that's not a good way to look at it, or maybe it's Steve Clifford going, bro, you're the only guy here who knows how to play, so we just need to give you more minutes. That's possible too. The 2-game playoff week looms. Nick Richards, one of the more consistent players out there. His upside is low, but he should be on a roster. He gives you 28 to 29 minutes most nights. Low-end double-double with a block and 60+% shooting. He had 11 and 13, steal, block, 67%. That's what he does. Is that for you? I don't know. It might be, and that means you have him, and if it doesn't, somebody else in your league will use it. Brandon Miller shot poorly, but at least he added other stats. He had 11, 3, and 5 with 4 steals and a block, but only 29%. And the main thesis for me telling you that I thought he was a sell-high guy a few weeks ago was that he was shooting at rates that were ridiculous and were nothing to do with anything he'd done in college, and I didn't think they would hold. And what's also happened is his minutes have pushed down a little bit as well. Still must-roster player, yes, but pushed down a little bit. Cody Martin grabbed the 4 steals. That's a streamable sort of player. And not much else going on there. Seth Curry didn't do much. Midshit shot 31% in 22 minutes. He's at least deep league sort of a player. On the Warriors side of things, John Kuminga, the downturn continues. This game wasn't a difficult game, so they did sort of reduce minutes of guys, but 28 minutes for Kuminga, 6 points on 22% is bad. His efficiency stuff, which was sky high, has started to fall away. But he, like Brandon Miller, added the defensive stuff, all the peripheral stuff, which had also been absent from his game. 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks for Kuminga. We hold him, but a lot of the stuff that he was doing earlier obviously has fallen quite away. Andy Wiggins had 14 points, 3 assists, and 2 threes. He's playing well at the moment. I don't fully trust it long term, but yeah, he's doing well at the moment. And if we want to talk about not trusting something long term, let's talk Klay Thompson, because I think he's a jack.
Get that garbage out of here!
But before you get up in arms and say, well, he's actually have some respect, he's one of the best shooters of all time, let me explain what I mean. If I think that he can be jacked off, if I think that Klay Thompson's a droppable player, you don't have to drop him. First of all, look, we know that. I'm not telling you have to do this in none of these things. I'm also not telling you that even if you did want to believe everything that I say, which you shouldn't, you should always look at it for your own perspective. Me saying that Klay's a jackable guy, a droppable guy, means that when you sit looking there and you go, wow, I really love what Bol Bol did, I need to get him on my team. My opinion on that is, well, if you drop Klay Thompson, I think you'll be okay. I don't think you'll live to regret it. Like, what is Klay's best case scenario here on out? Could he be a top 70 player? I highly doubt it. He's coming off the bench. Chris Paul has to return. Klay's like a points and threes guy with wildly inconsistent percentages. What are you missing out on? 4 rings Tim Hardaway. That's about it. That's where he is at this point in his career. Klay had 21 minutes, 13 points, 46%. It's not a bad line, but 13, 2, and 0 doesn't get it done. So if you want to move on, I think you'll be okay with it. Draymond had just 5 points but 13 rebounds and 2 blocks, and Steph had 15, 2, and 5. Solid enough from Podziemski, 31 minutes, 13, 6, and 6. Again, the Chris Paul factor comes into play. Podziemski should be on a roster, and we reassess it and see what they do when CP returns. Trace Jackson-Davis had 15 minutes and Looney had 10. That continues to be frustrating, while Lester Quinones was ejected in the Grant Williams issue. A lot of I don't know, testiness across the NBA with fights and altercations and all that sort of stuff going on today. Let's go in now and have a look at the next game. It was the 8th game of the day. The Denver Nuggets went into Portland and they got a victory relatively easily there. We saw Jamal Murray sit out, likely due to the back-to-back, but it was that same tibial inflammation that was an issue before the break. So Reggie Jackson started, and then Scoot Henderson was out with that groin injury, but fine to play in the All-Star game, apparently, or the Rising Stars game, and they replaced him with Chris Murray. Yeah, Chris Murray was someone that I talked about as someone to keep an eye on for this team later on in the season. The big caveat there is I don't think Chris Murray is good at all, and we saw that here. But there might be some opportunities that come his way later on. The Nuggets handled this one easy, 127-112. Jokic, 29, 15, 14, 2 steals and a block. He is putting together a pretty strong run here. While Maga Porter Jr., 34 and 12 with 5 triples. Michael has been very up and down. He's 92nd for the season, 34th over the last 2 weeks. Many times this season, someone's asked me, hey, should I drop Porter? No. But there are going to be a lot of ups and downs with what he does. We got 24 Colin Gillespie minutes. He had 18, 2 and 4 with 4 threes and 78% shooting. Now that is, again, because Murray was out and Jackson was struggling, 9 points in 22. But good for Colin, putting up those numbers. I think you could ignore it. KCP played, even though he had that finger sprain yesterday.
Get that garbage out of here.
9, 4 and 4, while Aaron Gordon had 7 assists and 2 steals, but only 8 points. Not a good game for him. Like I already said, Reggie Jackson had 9 points in 22, and Peyton Watson grabbed us the block, which that's fine. He's a streamer for defensive stats. He got it. He had 8 and 4, but overall, just an easy game here for the Nuggets. For the Blazers, Simons, 21, 3 and 8. Cannot stress enough. Sal, get rid of him. Jeremy Grant, 25, 2 and 4, 3 steals. Sal, get rid of him. DeAndre Ayton, 22 and 10, 35 minutes. Sal, get rid of him. I just don't see how these guys are going to be playing all season. I don't know when they stop. I've got no idea. It might not be until after your fantasy playoffs. In fact, if you do end the season March 24th, like I suggest, you might be fine. But I would still love to be able to get some sort of equivalent value back for these players. Thibault did what he does, and that's 4 steals in 20 minutes. That's all you need to care about there. While Kamara had 6 and 6, and Chris Murray played 35 minutes. He played the 3rd highest minutes on this team. He had 9 points on 40% shooting with 8 rebounds. There will be a time when some of these guys sit like Grant, like Ayton, where Murray has a 20-point game, he hits 3 threes, he has 10 rebounds. We ask, do we get excited about him? I know his brother's Keegan. And you go, yeah, okay, we can use him now, but long-term, no. Like, I just don't think he's going to be very good, but maybe he is. But there are going to be some opportunities that open up for him. At the moment, he is well ahead of Jabari Walker. I thought that Walker was going to be in line for a big role later on this year. Maybe not. 2 and 6 for him in 14 minutes. Keep an eye on it, but obviously we don't need to stash. Well, Dwop Reith had 8 and 5 and 2 blocks. He's going to be the must-add, I think, if Ayton is out. But at the moment, we don't need to sit on that. Just not going to happen. Banton had 14 in 20 minutes as well with Scoot out, but I want Scoot back. Do something for me, Scooter. Come on, come back, mate. On to the next game. Glenn Rivers, on the road against the Minnesota Timberwolves, steers the Bucks to a victory. 112-107 the final score here. Lillard still not shooting well, but 21, 9 and 10 with 2 steals and a block is great contributions across the board. Still only 35%, which is annoying, but good counting stats. Leaky Beasley, 14 points, 4 threes, 3 steals, premium stream guy. Giannis had 33, 13 and 5 on incredibly bad free throws. 14 of 21. That kills you. While Lopez had 16, 3 and 1 with 4 threes. Bob Portis, 14 and 5. Not a must roster player.
Get that garbage out of here.
He just isn't. And Connaughton had 8 points in his 20 minutes. Not a lot to talk about here, except we got big Jay Crowder minutes again. 35 minutes for 2 points. 2 steals and a block there with Middleton out. Obviously, we don't care about Crowder for fantasy. He just keeps getting those minutes, while Gallinari played 5 minutes and no minutes, of course, for AJ Green or Andre Jackson. The rumor on the street was they're just too young. Too young for Doc. He's just got an age limit. And, respect for having that age limit and doing ID checks. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, Gobert had 12 and 19 in 38 minutes, and Edwards had 28, 9 and 5, but some brutal shooting. 37 from the field on big volume, and then 67 from the line. Speaking of brutal shooting, the Wizard of Naz Reid, jacked off legend.
Get that garbage out of here.
He had 8 and 4 on 20% in 23 minutes. He is just ridiculously overrepresented in 12-team leagues. According to our advanced roster metric, 95% rostered. Why? What are you doing? What is the rationale? If you have Naz Reid rostered in your 12-team league, explain it. Why? What is the point? Am I being a little harsh? Maybe, but I don't get it. We had 28 minutes from Kyle Anderson here. He had 6 assists and 2 steals. Not really a 12er. And Townsy had 22 and 12, and Conley 9, 2 and 2. You've seen like 1 minute or so being lopped off the top here for Conley with Monte Morris arriving. Not that Morris is doing anything. 5 points for him. Conley had 9, 2 and 2. He does remain a category league hold. In points leagues, don't think you need to. He's not a high enough volume player where that if he's probably sitting again, averaging your lowest amount of fantasy points. And if you're in an 8, I'll get to that in a second. That means you don't have to roster Conley if he's your lowest guy. I get questions from guys in 8-team leagues and 10-team leagues, and they'll be like, who do you think is going to be the best guy? And it'll be like 4 guys who are like 90th best players. And in those sort of leagues, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. Unless it's someone with real top 50 value, you just stream that spot through. There are so many good options available on your waiver wires that don't worry about it. There's just too many guys. Just drop them. Add the next guy. Drop them. Add the next guy. It does not matter. So whoever your worst player is, if you're playing in, and I'm talking about standard roster. If you're playing an 8-team league with 20-man rosters, well, you got to be a little bit more picky. But if you're playing an 8-teamer with 13-man rosters, a 10-teamer with 13-man rosters, your waiver wire is chock full of good players. The back end of your roster doesn't matter. Just stream them through, churn them through, take flyers on guys, do whatever. Maximize schedules. That's what you need to do in those sort of formats. Absolutely what you need to do. Again, assuming we're talking about a standard roster size scenario there. Are you ready for nonsense? Because we're going to talk about Victor Wembanyama. The San Antonio Spurs took on the LA Lakers. LeBron returned for the Lakers. That meant that the artist formerly known as Taurean Prince moved back to the bench. And we had a game that the final score's a little weird in this one. 123 Lakers, 118 Spurs. The Lakers were up big. That's why you'll see low minutes for someone like Anthony Davis. He just didn't play in the fourth quarter, but the Spurs came back and made it much closer in that fourth quarter. But it was a little weird because it was like 20 points at the end of the third, and then in the end, the score doesn't make it look like a blowout, even though it was a blowout for big chunks of the game. Let's start on the side of the GOAT, the San Antonio Spurs. And I say that half joking, but I said this in the draft process when we're talking about the draft and go, okay, look, Wemby's got to go number 1, obviously. He probably isn't going to be, but you don't really see a prospect coming into the NBA very often who has the potential to be the GOAT. And he has the potential to be the GOAT, not only just for like fantasy, but real basketball. This man, in 9 minutes to begin this game, had the second best fantasy line of the day in 9 minutes. Yes, you won the monstrous. Yeah, it's him. 31 minutes, 27, 10 and 8, 5 steals and 5 blocks. And for those of you counting at home, yes, that is a 5x5. He's been flirting with it all season. He shot 91 from the line on 11 attempts. He shot 44 from the field on 16 attempts. Someone asked me, hey, how crazy would it be if I took Wembanyama number 1 next season? It's not crazy. It's not. Over the last 2 weeks, he's the number 1 ranked player in 29 minutes. Over the last 5 games, he's the number 2 ranked player in 29 minutes. In the course of this season, he's the 8th ranked player in like 29 minutes. If he plays 34 minutes, it is absolutely over. It is a wrap. It is done. If you took him, I said this yesterday or 2 days ago. I said, look, you could take him top 3 next season. I'd take him over Embiid, no problem. Someone laughed. I'd take him over Embiid. Bro, you could take him number 1 and it's fine. This is ridiculous. And he is a rookie. What is peak Wembanyama's stat line? 30 and 15, 5 assists, 2.5 threes, 2 steals, 5 blocks a game, 50% shooting, 85 from the line on 8 attempts. It's the number 1 player in every world. And I don't want to jerk him off too much. My hands aren't big enough to begin with. But this is ridiculous. I had a pretty good feeling he was going to be awesome. Not like this. And not this quickly. Jeremy Sohan, 2 good games in a row. 15, 13, and 5. 2 steals. 44% shooting. Not great, but that's okay. If you want to grab him, he's in a little hot streak. Do it. Don't think it's going to last necessarily, but do it. Well, yesterday we talked about the horse Keldon Johnson and how he does struggle for category leagues, and this is why. 14, 2, and 3. No steals, no blocks. Just nothing exciting. Not a must-roster guy. And Vassell struggled. 10 points on 20%. Don't worry too much about that. Zach Collins had 14 points. He hit 2 threes. That's his first three-pointer since January. He's still ridiculously over-rostered. Do not need to roster him. While Trey Jones continues to struggle. 8, 3, and 4. I am holding for now. That won't necessarily be the case as we move forward, though. Nice little cameo from Malachi Branham. He dropped in 17 points in 23 minutes for the Lakers. LeBron had 30 and 7 with 9 assists in 34 minutes. Really good to have him back and doing that. While Davis, only 29 minutes. Like I said, they just didn't need to play him in the fourth. 28 and 13 there. And Hachimura, pretty good game from Rui. You don't often get 2 steals and a block out of him, and you got him here, 17 and 7 in 32 minutes, 64%. He's playing really well. I do not believe that Hachimura is a must-roster player, but if you want to stream him in the short term, absolutely. While guys like Wood are out, and Vincent are out, and Reddish are out, and Vanderbilt are out, there's an opportunity here. He's shooting really well. Go for it. I don't think that it's a long-term thing. Russell had 22, 3, and 6, and Reeves struggled a bit for 10, 5, and 9, but I tell you what you can do without feeling any guilt whatsoever. Bitcoin legend, Spencer Dinwiddie.
Get that garbage out of here!
There was some that would think, oh, he was just like really unhappy in Brooklyn and that's why he's playing poorly. Maybe he's just bad. 0 points, 0 of 6 from the field, 1 rebound, 1 assist. One of the cleanest jacks you will ever have. Prince had 5 points in his 19 minutes, while Jackson Hayes, a bit of a deeper league guy at the moment with some more minutes because of the injury there to Christian Wood. He had 8 and 4 in those 19 minutes. And that is the game's done. I'm not going to do the full presentation. I do have to head out. Again, don't normally do a show today, but I'll just tell you who the monstrous line of the night is. You're going to be shocked to know it's also the young line of the night. It's Victor Wembanyama. The waiver wire line of the night, well, it's Victor Wembanyama 1.0. Bol, he had 25 and 14. Again, I don't really think it's a long-term thing, but if you want to have a crack, I'm not going to stop you. And the dud of the night was, if I scroll down to the bottom of my list, it was Evan Mobley, 8 and 10 with bad field goals, bad free throws, 1 block, no assists, no threes. Bad night from Mobley. So that brings us to the end of the show. Again, thank you everyone for being here. The audio people who don't normally watch on YouTube, subscribe, thumb up, ring the bell. I hope you guys came over. The audio stuff will all drop in one batch after Sunday's action, sometime Monday morning in the US, so be ready for that. But otherwise, everything's going to be here on YouTube until we get to the probably first show that will drop that's on time audio-wise will be the injury update, which normally comes on a Monday afternoon. That'll probably be the first show that drops simultaneously on both formats. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.